Guys, welcome to another episode of Titan Travels. In this episode I swap a motor. My past current motor was a little tired and needed to be swapped out, so I got a donor motor and we swapped that thing in there. It was out of a G35X 2006, had about 150,000 kilometers on it, so I got it for a pretty good deal. The upper oil pan had a funky hole in it because it was an all-wheel drive car. So basically in this episode you'll just see me ripping apart the donor motor and swapping all my turbo parts onto it and getting it back into the car. Unfortunately, these last couple weeks have been a little hectic. We misplaced an SD card and lost a bunch of content, so that's unfortunate. You guys won't see all that we've been filming. I also moved out of my place and that took up a lot of my time cleaning and getting out of there. And next up we're going to California. So from the day I'm filming right now, talking to this camera, I'm leaving to Cali in 4 days. So the motor's in, and in this episode you'll kind of see what it all takes to do that. So hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and comment below if this is the kind of stuff you guys like seeing. Maybe if you want me to get a little bit more thorough into the technical stuff, like little pointers, and I could do a little bit more breakdowns of what I'm actually doing. Yeah, comment below if you like to see anything else besides me just talking to a camera. Anyways, enjoy. We'll see you guys. How's it going? Just another day at the shop. I've been busy working on my car and moving, as we're going to be living out of our camper here right away. So I'll just kind of get you up to speed. Remember that VQ that I got? Well, here she is. What I've done is just stripped it all the way down. I didn't open it up, but it's been stripped down, all the accessories and the intake and all that crap. The headers, the lower oil pan and the upper pan have been removed. I kind of just got a bag on there, but I gotta take the pan off of my car and swap it still. But I kind of routed some of the cooling hoses already. Kind of set it up for my catch can with the equalizer here, and then just the PCV valve. Resealed the valve covers, cleaned up the gasket and reinstalled it. So really the next thing to do here is I'm gonna take the intake and all this crap off, and because this motor is turboed, it has the bigger injectors in it. So I'm, instead of taking off the injectors out of the fuel rails, I'm just going to take that whole setup and just bolt it right onto that motor. And then we can just start taking everything off of this so that we can pull it. But I want to assemble that motor as much as I can and keep my car kind of rolling, because I do have clients coming and going still. And shop space is always tight. But yeah. Car is working really well. We have a bit of bonus footage that I took last weekend at RMDC. It was wet, so the car felt like it had a whole bunch of horsepower, which I don't know, it does. It's not crazy power, but it's a noticeable increase in power for me, and there's more torque than horsepower, which is really awesome. That being said, I did snap a axle on the right side. When I jack the car up, I could probably get the camera in there and show you. You won't be able to see nothing. But yeah, I snapped the axle on that, so I'll have to be easy with clutch kicking and drivetrain shock. So just smooth driving, nothing jerky. But as far as handling and suspension, the car is just perfect. I can really drive it the way I've always wanted to. Since I took the SR out, because I've been kind of battling an uphill battle the last 2 years trying to get that car the way I wanted it to handle and stuff, but it's good now. Let me wipe this lens. I do have a cage on the go, as I was talking to you guys a little bit before. It's really just in like the fitting stage. Still lots of work to do in this, but I need to get this car done before I can go on the road. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna start stripping this motor so that I can stop filming boring shit and drive it.
Little.
Alright guys, so I don't know if you saw in that time lapse there, I have pulled the intake off my current motor, which is suffering from a pressurized crankcase. So took the lower intake plenum, the fuel rail setup, off of that motor and put it on here. From one VQ to another, so if I ever so gently lift this, which is heavier than it looks, kind of awkward. There we go. Okay, we got her off. So this holds the bigger injectors, obviously with boost. Let me turn this radio down. Shout out to SiriusXM for always having good tunes when I'm working my long hours. So, what I was getting back to. These hold the bigger injectors. These are 800cc, obviously for forced induction. You're gonna want a bigger injector. So, these are really delicate, and I didn't want to take them out in case I crack an O-ring or something shit. So, what I did was just take this whole, that V, kind of like the high-rise setup, off of the motor that I've been drifting with last 2 years. So what's up next? Take this turbo off, keep ripping lines and shit off. What I'm gonna try to get to are those headers, so I can put the headers on that motor and get it ready to drop in. Shouldn't be an issue with the headers on it. As you can see, there's adequate space there once I get rid of that downpipe. So I get cracking on that and keep you guys updated. We're going stateside in like literally like 5 days from now. On top of that, I gotta be moved out of my place in 2 days. On top of that, I got a roll cage to finish, and on top of that, I gotta swap this. So bear with me, stay posted, and I'm gonna knock these nails down one at a time. Alrighty, so didn't do a time lapse because the GoPro was pretty dead. Only had like 10%, so I just charged it, and I got a little carried away. First we'll look at this, I guess. So basically from where we left off, underneath were those bigger injectors that are in these fuel rails, and I went ahead and put this intake on. I polished this one. This is off the new motor, and then the bottom's just off the old motor. Put the plugs in it, put the coil packs in it, routed some more coolant lines. I actually deleted a lot of the lines. This one went to the throttle body just for warming the motor up when it's cold. Some people say don't get rid of it, but I'm just trying to eliminate all lines that aren't needed to make it simple. So yeah, this nipple to that nipple is gone, and then this nipple to that nipple. I don't know if any VQ guys are watching, but yeah, that's for your idle. At a cold start, it just increases it a bit to help warm up the motor. Like I said, I don't want that. This is just another bypass hose, which I've plugged one here, so eliminated one more line. So it's going to be coolant out into the rad, and then coolant in. And these are usually heater hoses, but they've just been looped back to where it would have come out from factory. So I've eliminated the heater box and all the bypass hoses and the cold start throttle position hose. So it's literally just in and out, which is what I want. Oh, and this factory oil cooler, stupid shit. But yeah, trying to make it as simple as possible. Then I went ahead and put this header on. I had to also use this coolant pipe. It's custom made to fit, but this header has been put on. Coolant pipe's been put on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Next video, we're gonna be doing the lower pan. So I don't know if we'll get to that. Probably not tomorrow, because I'm gonna have to pull the motor before it can really go any farther. Pull the motor, put the lower pan on so we can put on this alternator, and put the new belt on it. Also need to take off my downpipe so that I can get this header out, which is underneath, and then that'll be the motor really. One thing I did want to say about all you do-it-yourselfers, always try to check your torque specs, but more importantly is your torque sequence. Every car is different. It's not just a matter of, hey, I'm going to tighten this one, I'm going to tighten this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. No, there's a sequence to it. So reference your service manual when you're dealing with intake or any kind of plenums, fuel rails, anything like that, and anything really. You want to make sure you're checking torque sequence. Tell us in the comments if you want to see more of this stuff. I know it's hard to film. I am a one-man crew, so if you want to see more of this, comment below and we will continue showing you guys all the nitty-gritty, dirty stuff. I'm going on 14 hours today with the cage that's going in that Skyline and working on my car. So I'm gonna go home. We got to move out in 2 days, so go home, clean my house tomorrow, patch the walls and shit, and then I'll be back out here to finish that roll cage before we go and to get this motor in my car. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Titan Travels. We might just continue this footage from the last couple videos I've done, but basically I'll give you an update of where we're at. I had to move out of my house, so I didn't do much filming, and I've been working long hours, so GoPro wasn't really a huge concern for me, as I had a lot on the go. But motor's out, as you can see. Here's the old gal, the one that pushes oil through the rings, past the rings. This one will get built for boost. So I've literally stripped it. We need this clutch and flywheel off. This is for a turbo setup. I also got a baffled oil pan set up, so this spacer and this spacer for the oil pickup have to come off as well. and then we'll be bolting it onto this motor, which is the new one. Remember I was referring to that upper oil pan that had the funky hole in it for the all-wheel drive G35. I imagine it would be the same for the FX35 Infinity. So this is just a G35 upper oil pan with a deck, a spacer in here for the pan. This is for my return line from the turbo, so you hold a little bit more oil, and it's also kind of like a little baffled setup. You can see there's no plate over the crank and the rods and that, and then you come look at this motor, and it's got that deck on it, and it also has this pan, so it gives you a bit of a baffled setup. These motors aren't built for boost, so whatever I can bolt onto it to help maintain its life, I will do that. So we need the return lines anyway from the turbo. So what I'm going to do at the moment, here's the new motor. It's upside down, so why don't we just do this? So yeah, it's upside down. That reason being that I got to do this gasket here, and I would prefer to work like this as opposed to working on my back upside down, as I'm sure most of us have been on our backs enough under fucking cars. So here's the tranny, big beefy gal, slid off really easy actually. It was kind of nice. Also need that clutch and flywheel off that motor, but what we're gonna do now is get some good old spray nine, clean this all up, all this fucking shit, wash it up, clean it up, scrape this gasket off, and finish putting this long block together. Once we're done that, we'll put the clutch and flywheel on it. Once we're done that, we'll put the tranny on it. Once we're done that, we'll put her back in. So stay tuned and I'll show you what we're doing here. We're fully moved out of our place. We don't have anywhere to live because we're doing this big road trip, so that's where we live right now. Living in our little camper. It's kind of nice. I get to walk to work, but yeah, I'm gonna go wash some shit. I got that stuff cleaned up as best I could. This is the upper pan. You can see it's quite clean actually. Now this baffle is just factory, and don't ask me why the donor motor didn't have one on it. Really beyond my knowledge why it wouldn't. Perhaps it has something to do with the all-wheel drive, but it does bolt right onto the new motor. So that's the pickup. This is that spacer I was talking about. That has to go in to compensate for the bigger pan that we're running, or the pan spacer we're running. So I'll put this baffle plate on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts. Oil pickup, put that in. Just wanted to kind of show you guys before I go crazy. Put all that on, and then we'll put this stuff on, which I'm just letting soak, the pan and the spacer. So get that stuff put on. You can see here that this motor is actually in pretty good condition considering the abuse. Like, look at the steel finishing on it is still really clean. So that's kind of nice to know. It could be the fact that I was running synthetic oil and it was just getting pushed out, so essentially cleaning itself. could have something to do with it, but this thing will get torn apart over the off season this winter coming up. And from what I've read, these motors have pretty good rods and pretty good crank. The block is also pretty tough, but the pistons aren't. So I'm gonna put some lower compression pistons in it, some new rings, some new studs, head gaskets, and then a cam, or 2 cams I should say, 2 heads on this, 4 cams. I'm used to SR20s, but yeah, I'll be ripping this thing apart, and we'll probably show you guys more of that over winter, but that's a ways away, so don't be waiting. Before I get ahead of myself too, I'm gonna have to pull this clutch and flywheel off, so I might need a homie to come over here and help me, because this thing moves pretty freely, as you can see, or at least it was last night. Maybe it's not. Anyway, I'm going to start assembling this. So.
Ryan Little.
Yoga.
So that was a long ass time lapse. Sorry for the long video. I'll probably make it shorter in the edit, but it was about 7 minutes. Anyway, long story short, I want to like take my time when I'm putting together a motor. You want to make sure you do everything right. As I was talking about earlier with the intake plenum, the most important thing in my opinion is obviously getting the torque specs right, but the torque sequence is very, very important. I've heard guys cracking oil pans, the aluminum oil pans, and having big leaks and stuff because the bolts weren't tightened in sequence. Yeah, they might be tight, but these things need to be seated, you know, in a certain fashion. You can't just boom, 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 tighten all the bolts. I mean, even an oil pan, like we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, like there's a specific pattern for each one. But anyway, pretty much got this motor together. Clutch and flywheel needs to go on it. So what I'm gonna do is spin it around now that the bottom end's done. I'll put on like the oil filter and the oil filter housing. It's a little thing that goes in there. Put on the remaining accessories. I think it's just the let's see, just the alternator and a tensioner. That's it. Put a fresh belt on it and put the clutch and the flywheel on it. Put her back in. This thing's literally completely taken apart, so she will go sit in the corner until winter. Yeah, not much else to say, but we'll spin this around and continue putting accessories on it, and I'll show you a video of it put together. It's fully assembled. New belt on there. Oil pan gasket. Got my lines routed ready for the turbo. Feed and return. And then coolant in, coolant out. Put the turbo manifold on it and good to go. Just need to plumb the catch can and stuff. I want to clean up the engine bay a little bit before I put this in. So what I'm going to do now is lower this motor in the corner. Put it in the corner back there somewhere. Space is getting tight in this place, I'll tell you what. Anyway, we're going to put that in the corner after I pull the clutch and the flywheel off of it. And made up this tranny. So let me lower this motor or get the flywheel and clutch off of it, and then I'll do some more filming then. So I just had dinner. It's about 6:45 now. I got the other motor off. I got the other motor on the table there. The motor out of my car is just on the floor, awaiting its build in the future. For now, the motor's on the table. Good thing I made a big fab table. We got a breaker bar on the crank there, and we're gonna install the flywheel, and we're gonna torque these bolts to the specifications. I think it's about close to 70 foot-pounds if I recall. I have it written down. I'll also throw on a little bit of Loctite on the end of these bolts, just to make sure they don't come loose. And then we'll throw pressure plate and clutch on, and made it to the transmission. So might do a little time lapse for you guys, but here goes nothing.
Ryan Little.
Alright, so if you're watching that time lapse, you saw me put the flywheel and the clutch and the pressure plate on. On the front crank, I just got a breaker bar that's touching the table, and then I torqued the flywheel, which you can't see anymore, it's deep in there, to about 70 foot-pounds in a cross motion sequence, using some Loctite and a torque wrench. And then I double check those, put this clutch on. I don't have an alignment tool, so I did my best to keep it centered. And putting on the pressure plate, these bolts need to be tightened, torqued in sequence as well. They get torqued first to about 12 foot-pounds, and then you go around again and you get them to about 30. So I don't know if you saw my helper there, that's my mom. She was putting dots on these bolts as I was going over them. So we got 2 dots on all of them, boom, boom, boom. We're good to go. So next step is sliding this transmission on there. And then cleaning up this engine bay with a little spray nine, some soap, and then slap this motor back in there. So maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, we're not sure yet, but I'm gonna keep going. Getting a little tired here. I'm like literally 50 hours into this, like straight in the last 2 days, 3 days, so. Engine bay's clean. Did a little bit of engine shampoo in there and then just sprayed it down. Nothing too crazy, just get the dirt and the grime off. This is fully complete. Everything, every nut and bolt, every accessory, tranny's been torqued to spec. Clutch, flywheel, pressure plate, manifolds, upper oil pan, lower oil pan. bigger oil pickup spacer. Installed the baffle. Quite a bit of work on this. Redid all the seals, scraped all the gaskets off, put it all back together, cleaned it all up. So needless to say, there's been a decent amount of effort put in. Eliminated some coolant hoses to kind of simplify everything, and yeah, got a good feeling about this one. It's what you see is what you get, right? There's nothing too extravagant going on here anymore. The stock VQs are really just an ugly fucking mess in my opinion. So did my best to tidy it up and keep it simple and keep it clean, and we're gonna slide this back into the car. Don't really feel like doing it, but we're supposed to be in California for a drift event on the 8th, and that's coming up quick, so guys, so that went in pretty smooth actually. I don't know if you saw a little time lapse there. Kind of had to just isolate the motor left and right a little bit, but it went in pretty smooth, which is a good thing. So just kind of crawling around the car. I washed the engine base. There's a bunch of water under the car and it really stinks, but when I was going under there, I got a kind of funky trans mount. There's a through bolt here, and I was using just a rubber hockey puck as my old bushing, and you can see it's kind of taking a beating. I think this just clipped on the trailer going in. So what I've done is just reamed out this solid aluminum piece I have here. Now if you look at the thickness, it's pretty much the same. It's kind of funny actually. These are from my spoiler. I also use these for my engine mounts. So you're kind of getting like a solid aluminum bushing kit, you know. I don't buy any kits. Everything I do is made in-house. I also don't have all kinds of fancy tools. Fabrication shop, but I make do with what I got. And there she be. With the red, you can really tell how clean this motor is in there. Just looks fantastic. So, start buttoning things up. What I'm just trying to do is just get this tranny bolted on, or bolted to the car, sorry. And that'll be it for the night, I think. It's about 9:30 here in Calgary. Sun stays up quite late, which is nice for me. In the Doge. Buddy. Hi. Buddy. Hi. What you do? That's the Doge. Yeah, no, really excited with how this thing went in. I really had a chance to really clean it up. You can see the shine of it. New belt. Everything's been nicely polished. You know, fresh valve covers, all new gaskets, all the way down. Like, really excited to finally. The old motor was actually looked pretty good when I opened it up, but I never had a chance to put a VQ together with the assurance that I've seen the gaskets and I did all the work myself. You know, I kind of just bought a motor and put it in. This way I kind of have a peace of mind that I've gone over all the bolts, everything's been torqued. If there's any leaks, I should be able to identify them because it's really freaking clean. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Should have a startup tomorrow, so that should be it for the night. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe on 403 Street Driven's channel. We will have more videos coming out real soon. Like I said, we're supposed to be in California here in like a week, so I've been just slaving away, but get this motor running and swap that axle that I broke at RMDC. I have a spare already. What's up, guys? So I guess this would be next day. Yesterday we did that little time lapse, slid the tranny in, I mated the tranny, torqued the flywheel, yada 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 yada. I'm sure you guys just watched that. It's now Sunday about 5:30. I had 2 clients come by today, so did a bit of work, and then I've been plugging away on this car, and this is probably version 13 or 14 by now, but this version seems to be the most clean in the engine bay. There's still a bit more tidying up to do. We got it filled up with fluids and stuff, but this is what it looks like. So, a couple different things that have changed. I kept blowing off a freaking boot on the turbo down here. Now this used to be clocked the other way so that the opening would come this way, kind of over this coolant hose into the intercooler. What I've done is I've routed it down, so it's a pretty tight fit in there now, as you can see, but I'm gonna run it like that and hope for the best. I like that I can use a full-size filter now, and cleans up a bit of engine area here. If you looked at my other setup, you could reference on Instagram, this was just like basically like an HKS mushroom filter, and it was just cut to fit. What else did I do? Oh, I'm only running one catch can hose now, so just one rubber hose into the catch can. Last setup I had 2, one from each valve cover, but I'm running just an equalizer hose and then a PCV. I'm hoping that this crankcase isn't nearly as pressurized. This gives a bit more room in here. Still need to get a new kill switch. My last one shit the bed, so that's kind of ugly. But I can kind of see everything now. I mean, the VQ is as clean as it's going to get in this engine bay, in my opinion. This is the best looking setup I've had. And that turbo really stands out now with those little things moved. I'm not able to use a maximum valve cover anymore, so I got this ugly oil cap. My last setup, the Maxima oil cap was quite low, almost under the plenum, which I liked better, but those Maxima valve covers have seen their day and they're leaking, and there's a hole in one of them, so frickin' plastic. So I gotta put some oil in this sucker. The drive shaft isn't in, so I gotta put the drive shaft in, and we gotta swap this axle, but I am hoping to start this thing maybe after dinner. So it's a little update video. As I've said a million times, we're trying to go to California for Drift Evolution. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. People are just showing up here. Drift Evolution event. So, just a fun event, nothing crazy. But yeah, really stoked on this setup. Really clean. I like how polished everything is. Really makes the red pop. I had a chance to rinse the engine bay, and this is where we're at. So maybe we'll get a startup video after dinner here. Still got to hook up the tachometer, and boost. That's it. Alrighty, so it's now Monday. It's about noon. I finished getting this car together this morning and got some oil put in it. Everything went really smooth, except for one small problem. Small problem, big problem, medium problem. It's a problem. So, long story short, I cracked my throttle body when I was spinning the motor around on the engine stand. It just clipped the frickin' hoist. Now, I have my Haltech program running on my laptop, and every time you hit throttle position calibration, or throttle position calibration, it won't calibrate. So reason being, frickin' electric throttles, I hate this bastard. There's some feeler wires in here. If you push on the throttle, see if I can get it. Now you can see those little hairs, if it'll focus here. Anyway, there's like, I don't know if you could see them there, little strands. And they come on and off that plastic piece like that. So those hairs should be continually sliding on these feeler wires, which would kind of be inside there. So the wires are going off of these, and then it's tripping the ECU and saying, hey, your throttle's not working. Hey, we're not getting a sense, position sense. Hey, we're not gonna let you run it. So these 4 engine codes are all related to throttle. So the new motor's in and I can't start it, and I'm 95% sure that once I put a new throttle on that this baby should fire up. Now, just wanted to give a thanks to Evan Ashley at Revved Performance. I've gone there a million times. Anyway, he has a spare throttle body, so I'm gonna just pop it on there, see if it works, and if it works, take it off his hands so we can go stateside. In the meantime, I'm going to get some need some manual transmission fluid because I have to drain the transmission, and then I'm going to swap that axle. So swap the axle, put some trans fluid in it, drop this car, finish that Skyline, and we're out of here. Alrighty, so here's a little update. The frickin' spare I had was the wrong side, so I went ahead and extended it about 1.5 inches. So who's to say it will last or not? I don't know, but it's still a little warm. I'll throw it in the car and give it a whirl. I plan on getting some or sourcing some either along our drive or before we leave. Just to find some spares would be nice. Here we have just a little tech tip. You don't need to take the rim off to get these axles out. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where guys are taking off the rim, taking off all the arms just to get back there, and it's really not needed. Depending on what your rim is, obviously. I was lucky enough. Pretty much all my rims are like this, actually. There's an opening right here where your 36 mil bolt will go, which is this big guy, specialty socket that I use only for this. I don't think I've used it for anything else but this. But yeah, little tech tip. One big ass 36 mil bolt, 6 bolts on the stub of the diff, and slide that puppy out. So I'm gonna put this other one back in and hope for the best. I ended up I fitted it up with my MIG welder, using piece of angle iron to keep it straight. So I just kind of rested the axle in there so it was straight. I fitted it up to tapered both sides, or put a taper on both sides so that it was like a V groove, and then it was an open root. And then I actually used some stick welding, arc welding, 60-10 root, 70-18 fill and cap. This is a common practice if you're a B pressure welder. This would be something like welding gun barrel or really small OD pressure pipe. The MIG is just not doesn't dig enough to get in there. With the stick you can really kind of point and articulate the rod and wash it in there. So I'm confident in the weld. I just don't know if the heat would have affected this end of it. There's already some play in there. I was cooling it with my little spray bottle as I was welding, but who knows what will happen. But we're gonna slap this guy in and hope for the best. Evan's got a spare throttle body. My girlfriend's coming back with my truck. She cleaned it and she picked me up some tranny fluid. So fill up the tranny, and then if I can get this bastard to run, I can bleed the power steering and the coolant, and then we're off to California. So it's day 3 in that camper, living literally at my shop right now, which I mean is okay, I guess, but it'd be nice to wake up beside like an ocean, you know. Perks to living out here is not having to drive to work. Literally didn't run my truck in like 3-4 days, so that was good. But anyway, enough with me blabbing. I'm gonna put that axle in and we will fill her up with oil and continue on. Thanks for watching. I'll keep you guys posted. Alright, here's some bonus footage. A little bit of in-car. Red RMDC, and there's like no one here, so the track's private. That's kind of sweet.